Typecast Heroes. I'm Jessie Miller.
And I'm Amanda Fogelson, and today we're continuing our series on the cognitive functions, and we will be explaining extroverted thinking. Just as a reminder, this series serves as a teaser for our 16-episode podcast series that should be released near the end of this summer, and we are still looking for more people to interview. In case you are new to Typecast Heroes, in order for us to release the data that we've been collecting over the past few months, we need 100 of each of the 16 MBTI personality types.
So just to go a little more in depth about what this series is about, if you haven't been watching, we just finished up all of the perceiving functions. So now we are on to the judging functions. So our last video did introverted feeling. So now we are on the opposite one, which is extroverted thinking. So remember, when you take the MBTI, or the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator Test, you get a 4-letter code, and that basically tells you the order of your cognitive functions. The cognitive functions, according to Carl Jung's psychology, are the way that we perceive information and make decisions. So we are on our second judging function.
And just as a reminder, the perceiving functions are sensing and intuition. And you can see those videos if you just go back to our profile on YouTube. And then we also have introverted feeling up already as well. As we said, this video is all about extroverted thinking. And just a quick warning, a friendly reminder that we do in each of our videos, extroverted in typology does not mean the same as it does in social situations. So you can have extroverted thinking or be a user of extroverted thinking, but not like people or not like to go out and party all the time. Extroverted does not mean that, just as introverted doesn't mean that you don't want to be around people or that you want to be alone all the time. So another quick reminder that people who use extroverted thinking still feel things, they still have feelings, just as feelers still think. That sounds silly, but it needs to be said. And just to mention, a quick little thing, whenever you see our post about extroverted thinking, it'll come up as TE, so big T, little e. And as we go through this video, we're going to be talking a lot about how extroverted thinking tends to show itself, what it tends to look like, what these users will sometimes do. Just remember who you are at your core, and as we like to say, who you are on your default setting. That's what you need to really focus on here. So you may relate to a lot of things that we're about to say and explain and a lot of the examples we're going to use, but that does not mean that you are an extroverted thinker. So just keep that in mind as we go through all this. Specifically for this video, the extroverted thinking types that we are talking about will be ENTJ, ESTJ, INTJ, and ISTJ.
So extroverted thinking is one of the functions that people use to make decisions. So it is based on external things. So the person who uses extroverted thinking when they're using this function is not making decisions based on their own internal system primarily. They are using outside logic, outside data, outside information, and they are very action-oriented. They're very action-driven. So to them, facts and systems just are. They aren't personal to the person. It's not like, this is my system and I know that this is what I believe in. To them, it is just the objective system. Again, objective as Carl Jung uses it, not how it's used in the colloquial language. So to them, it just makes sense. Things just make sense. They just are this way. This is the most efficient way to do things, and everyone should work according to the system. Because everything is action-oriented and efficient, Carl Jung says that sometimes they even have a tendency to weigh good and evil this way. All of their ideas are filtered through a systematic approach, which is very different than the way TI works, which we will cover in our next video. So they have this persona of being very confident and aggressive almost sometimes, and very assertive, and they know what they're talking about. But because they are so action driven and they are so focused on the external world, it can create this kind of self-consciousness, according to Carl Jung, for their own internal feelings. So that is why TE is on an axis with FI, and that's why external thinkers, extroverted thinkers, are not just pure thinkers. They're not robots, and they're not heartless. They're not heartless at all. They have feelings, they have introverted feeling on the other end of that axis. So they become very self-conscious of this because, again, they spend so much time doing things outward in the world that when they stop, they say, wait a minute, what do all of these actions mean to me? So that is how that axis functions. And the reason that sometimes it takes them a little longer to figure out their own feelings or emotions about things is because, again, they are so action driven and they do require that external proof that what they are doing is efficient and logical and it makes sense, that they don't take the time to spend introspecting on their own feelings or value systems or emotions. So again, because that's an introspective process. So that is why that axis is so important to an extroverted thinker. An extrovert who relies on extroverted thinking is going to use it very differently than an introvert would. Because remember, you rely on two main functions. One of them is how you take in information, and one of them is how you make decisions. So for an ENTJ or an ESTJ, they lead with extroverted thinking. This is their dominant function. So that is the main way and the primary way that they interact with their world and their environment. They will be very much about making sure that systems work. They will make sure that their organizations work, that their companies work, that if they're building a rocket ship, that it works the correct way. They are very systemic and very much focused on their actions. So the way that they use, the lens that they have to look at the world is different because an ENTJ uses their introverted intuition and an ESTJ uses introverted sensing. And if you need more information on that, go watch those videos. But basically the difference is ENTJs have a more holistic vision. They have this big vision, an almost idealistic one at times, of how they want things to work, and then they use their extroverted thinking to put forth those systems. So some of the unfair stereotypes that they get about being just kind of cold-hearted CEOs is not fair. A lot of ENTJs do a lot of good in the world. They have a lot of service-oriented things because of their introverted intuition and this big vision that they want to bring forth into the world, and then they do that in an efficient way. ESTJs use their introverted sensing to bring forth their systems that they've seen or that mean something to them. So according to their experience, they will be bringing forth their own vision, again, through extroverted thinking. So why it's important for them to understand the term extroverted thinking and why language is so important, which is a big thing we preach here at Typecast Hero, is because when they are doing what they do best, ENTJs and ESTJs, which is basically running the whole freaking planet, people are really afraid of them a lot of the time, especially if you're a woman in this environment. People tend to be kind of afraid of you because you come across as very unapproachable and confident,
aggressive sometimes,
and assertive, just straight up assertive, because your focus as an extroverted thinker is to get this done, to do this the best way possible, the most efficient way. And at times that can come across as very unmovable, just very strict.
Almost like you don't think of what repercussions could take place based on what you're doing, like how it could affect the people around you based on what you're doing, because if it's efficient and if it's something that just needs to get done, a lot of times you'll just plow through and get it done. And that's kind of where that stereotype comes in. But like Jesse was talking about earlier, you do have FI, introverted feeling, to balance you out for a reason, to make you a better human, a balanced human.
And a lot of ENTJs and ESTJs both have told me that they hate that. They absolutely hate being unapproachable, and they hate it when people think that they can't come to them with their ideas. So here's the thing, and I have a big secret about ENTJs and ESTJs. They want your opinion as long as it's a solid, like, found opinion. It is an opinion that you have done a lot of thoughts on, and it's going to make their system more efficient, because guess what? They don't have an attachment to this system. They want the system that works best. So if you can actually show them a better way to do something, they want that. They want the most efficient system. And they want people brave enough and confident enough and assertive enough to come forward and show them, hey, I've got a better way. They seek that. And particularly ENTJs spend a lot of time feeling like most people aren't gonna. They're not gonna challenge them. They're not gonna provoke them. They're not gonna fight with them about these things. But you should. They want that.
And time kind of proves that, because over and over and over again, people do exactly what we're saying, which is not approaching them, which makes them then feel, so the older they get, the more they've been around, and obviously with age comes other wisdom and everything, so that's not where I'm going here, but if they've been proven time and time again that people will not come to them, then they'll just make the decision and go with their own decision without even giving people a chance, because it's not an efficient use of their time to wait around for you if they've been taught already that people aren't going to come to them with ideas. So it's up to you to prove that wrong and come to them with your ideas. But just like Jessie said, make sure you thought it through, almost like a presentation. Like,
yeah, because you know they have.
Yes.
They know their stuff. ENTJs and ESTJs, you guys know your stuff. Like, you would not do it if it wasn't efficient, because your entire brain is wired for efficiency, for effectiveness, for outside data, and bringing it forth into the world. So you're not going to waste your time on something that you don't think works. However, how much you will be very appreciative if somebody could show you can save the time and do it better. And again, as I mentioned, for society, you need to let them get it done their way unless you have a better way. And then you need to be brave enough to man up and show it to them.
Yep.
And that's what society really needs to do with ENTJs and ESTJs, to use them to the best of their ability, because they are so good at the master plans. So good. And society also needs to quit judging them a little bit, because
they judge them very harshly.
Right, because
very harshly.
These people made all of our systems, like all of our big systems are made by people with these master visions. All over the world, ENTJs and ESTJs are doing this for us. And we spend a lot of time demonizing them. And that's just not fair. A lot of them do a lot of good for the world, and they should be appreciated for what they do. They have hearts. A lot of them are secretly. They've got like their little cuddly center. I promise.
I love using examples to kind of bring everything around. So my father is an ENTJ. He thinks he's kind of an INTJ, but he's not. He's an ENTJ. So my father was an ENTJ, and I remember the moment that I learned in high school how to approach him with anything ever. And it was literally by having a presentation. Let's say I wanted to convince him that I wanted to go to this college. I'm using a real life example here. I wanted to go to a specific college. I wanted to do this specific major, and he had other plans for me in store. Something that he's been thinking of all his life, and whatever. So for me to approach him about this college and let him know that I wanted to go, I brought out all of the data. I researched people, like famous people who had gone to this college and what they were now doing with their lives. I had all the tuition fees, all of the enrollment fees, the book fees, all the things. And then I also had the graduation rate. I had, how fast people would get into a career, all that stuff. I had to have all of that prepared and ready to go for me to talk to have a normal conversation that normally, if I was talking to Jessie here, I would just walked up to her and been like, hey, I want to go to this college and this is why. And then we would have just talked about it. No. With my ENTJ dad, I had a whole presentation about why, and then we had the conversation. And it went smoothly and it was fine. Had I not had that presentation, I've been down that road too, then all you're doing is sitting there and listening to them poke holes into your idea. Because they can.
Thought about it.
Exactly. Because they can see the holes that so many other people can't. And it is so helpful. But if you are not a TE user, it can feel very harsh when they are talking to you, because what they are doing is showing you a better way to do something, but that might come across as like a better way to live your life. And they mean it from a place of love. Like, they're coming from a place of love.
Right, because they are so about efficiency. They're not
Yes.
going to waste their time on you if they don't see you
They
as
don't
valuable.
care. Right.
So you need to understand their love language. As an ENTJ or ESTJ may not look like yours, and that's okay, society. Like, calm down. They're allowed to love you however they want to.
Yep. If they're sitting there poking holes and trying to tell you a better way for you to live your life, they're not coming at it from a know-it-all position, or, well, I mean, maybe a little, but that's not.
I mean, but probably because they do know it all.
Exactly.
They run the planet.
It's not coming from like this place of wanting to annoy you or tear you down or anything like that. And that took me a long time to realize too, because sometimes it truly can feel that way. That's not what's happening. They see the moments of weakness in your plan that you aren't able to see.
So now we're going to talk about the introverts who use extroverted thinking. So they are the INTJs and the ISTJs. So for them, extroverted thinking is their second function. So it's not going to be as action driven. It's not going to be as oriented as really getting things done. It's going to look very differently. So for an ISTJ, they look at life through the lens of introverted sensing. And so after they have taken in their information and they have a recall system, then they move to extroverted thinking to make decisions. So after they run it through their lens of all of their experiences, they decide what is the most efficient way based on my experience. Mm-hmm. Now an INTJ does it differently because they have introverted intuition. So again, watch those videos. What are you doing? After you watch those videos, come back and you can finish this video. Mm-hmm. But introverted intuition is when you are projecting your own abstract concepts, theories, philosophies onto everything that you are looking at. And after they pull in information through that lens and they process it, then they run it through their extroverted thinking and they decide, okay, now that I have run it through this filter, what is the most efficient way? But because they're running through a filter first, they are much slower to make decisions than an ENTJ or an ESTJ would be. I do want to clarify, they are also very, very good at action-oriented things, but it is not their primary focus. And they can be very good leaders, very strong leaders, and it's just not their main focus in life. Their main focus is to be more introverted, to look inward first and then action second. So they are slower, but they can reach just as good as a decision as an ENTJ or ESTJ can. It just takes them longer to get there. So this is why language is important for them and why ISTJs and INTJs need to understand their extroverted thinking and they need to have the proper language for it. Because it's in their second position and it's not their primary way, their third is introverted feeling. So that means that they use thinking and feeling almost equally. So for them, they can get kind of stuck in almost an analysis paralysis when they are moving through life because they experience something and they run it through their respective filters, introverted sensing or introverted intuition, and then they're kind of fighting between extroverted thinking, is it the most efficient way, and their introverted feeling, what does this mean to me? And this process kind of gets worse as they get older. So they have to constantly check it against their introverted feeling. And again, particularly for men who have introverted feeling in their third, they can feel really emotional. A lot of INTJs, for female INTJ females, will test as an INFJ because they can be very emotional because they are so in touch with their introverted feeling. And they can, both ISTJs and INTJs can feel things very, very deeply. However, they have that extroverted thinking almost compulsion pulling them, saying, no, we've got to be efficient, we've got to stay away from these feelings, we've got to stay away from our emotions, even though we feel them so strongly, because we have things to do. We don't have time for feelings. We don't have time for values. We've got to do our stuff. And that's really hard. So when they know that they have these two forces within them fighting all of the time, then they can better regulate it to make a better decision. So my advice for society is that you need to give them time to run it through their systems. You cannot come to an ISTJ or an INTJ and expect them to make a decision right now. And it's the same for an ENTJ or ESTJ, but ISTJ and INTJ need a little extra time, and they don't want to talk about it with you.
Whereas the ENTJ and the ESTJ,
they want to whiteboard it out.
Yes.
But INTJ, ISTJ, no. They don't want to talk about it with you. They want to figure it out for themselves, and then they'll present it to you as a fully formed, complete idea with all of the little facets that introverted intuition and introverted sensing gives them. So do not come to them and expect them to make a decision right now. They need time to run it through their extroverted thinking process and have it checked by their introverted feeling and their third. So society, let them do it. Give them their time and their space to think about things. Because when they bring forth that action or idea, it's going to be great. You just have to wait. So one of the ways that extroverted thinking gets run through that lens, just as an example, which I know Amanda usually does the examples, but I'm married to an INTJ, so I'm going to give one. So my husband needs things to work. They need to work all of the time. And he has all of these very efficient systems for how he does everything. Everything in life is the most efficient and effective way, from the way our kitchen is set up to the way that he fixes anything that breaks in our house. Like, it's efficient systems. And so my advice to myself, married to one, and to you if you love one who is an ISTJ or INTJ, is don't mess with their systems. Because he hates it. They hate it. They hate it so much. Because introverted people spend a lot of time on those systems and they own those systems. And so like even something as, and that's one of the ways that they show their love is by taking their time to organize things in an efficient manner. So if they take the time and they've got the dishwasher organized in a certain way, you should not mess up their system. That's a problem. Stop doing it. Society, just back off and let them have the dishwasher set up the way they want it.
And again, in a very similar sense, like we've talked about this with intuition in the past, where you may not be able to see how someone comes to a conclusion when using intuition. It's not like we whiteboard it out and can show you here how the dots are connecting. They just connect, right? That's similar to the an introvert who uses extroverted thinking, because in their mind, their system is in their mind and it makes sense and it's all very internal. And so an ENTJ might, just like we said, an ENTJ though will whiteboard it out and we'll be able to say like, okay, here's our plan, here's all the facts and the data, and here's why we're doing this and all that stuff. Whereas INTJ, ISTJ is more of like a trust me, I know what I'm doing. So just trust them. They know what they're doing.
Because again, they wouldn't be bringing it forth out into the world if they didn't know it was going to work. So just to summarize, it is important to own both of your extroverted thinking and your introverted feeling, because they're both valuable gifts and a valid way to see the world. So if you are a ex-NTJ or ex-TJ, if you're any of the TJ types, yes, if you're any of the TJ types, you might feel like you are not human enough because you're not attached enough with your emotions, but I'm telling you that you are, and that society needs you as you were made to be, and you don't need to go running off chasing your feelings to prove something. You are good enough as you are, and you are valuable enough as you are, which is running the planet. Running all of our companies, running all of our organizations, running all of our systems. You do what you do best when you are you.
It's okay if you do want to feel things, because you're human and that does happen sometimes. And I would encourage you to, not necessarily dwell on them or anything, but lean into them and let yourself feel what you need to feel. Let yourself handle those emotions however you need to. And also be okay if that does look like, okay, I'm going to feel this emotion for a few minutes and then I'm going to go tackle a project. I'm going to go do something or make something or fix something, probably fix something.
Because being human is hard.
This should hopefully make it a little bit easier. And you're going to be able to hear all that on this video. Thank you guys for watching, and again, we have lots of other videos out there. We try to post about twice a week, and if you guys could, just go ahead and like and subscribe, comment, let us know that you want to be interviewed, because we know you do, and go find us on Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, and Discord, and we are so happy to chat with you guys. Thanks again for watching.
Bye.
Bye.
Let's gather around the type fire and sing our type fire song. Our MBTI TYPOLOGY song. And if you feel uncomfortable, then know there's nothing wrong.